Well, it's a metaphor, but a metaphor that originated in a concrete experience. I worked for about 10 years of my life in areas of extreme poverty, in the Sierras, in the jungle, in urban areas, in different parts of Latin America. And at the beginning of that period, I was one day in an Indian village in the Sierra in Peru. It was an ugly day. It had been raining all the time. And I was standing in the slum, and across me another guy also standing in the mud, rather not in the slum, in the mud. And well, we looked at each other, and this was a short guy, thin, hungry, jobless, 5 kids, a wife, and a grandmother. And I was a fine economist from Berkeley, teaching in Berkeley, having taught in Berkeley and so on. And well, we were looking at each other, and then suddenly I realized that I had nothing coherent to say to that man in those circumstances. That my whole language as an economist, was absolutely useless. Should I tell him that he should be happy because the GDP had grown 5% or something? Everything was absurd. So I discovered that I had no language in that environment, and that we had to invent a new language. And that's the origin of the metaphor of Barefoot Economics, which concretely means that is the economics that an economist who dares to step into the mud must practice. The point is, that economists study and analyze poverty in the nice offices, have all the statistics, make all the models, and are convinced that they know everything that you can know about poverty, but they don't understand poverty. And that's the big problem. And that's why poverty is still there. And that changed my life as an economist completely. I invented a language that is coherent with those situations and conditions. Look, the thing is much deeper. It's not like a recipe typical of so many in your country, 15 lessons or satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. That's not the point. The point is much deeper. Let me put it this way. We have reached a point in our evolution in which we know a lot. We know a hell of a lot, but we understand very little. Never in human history has there been such an accumulation of knowledge like in the last 100 years. Look how we are. What was that knowledge for? What did we do with it? And the point is that knowledge alone is not enough, that we lack understanding. And the difference between knowledge and understanding, I can give it as an example. Let us assume that you have studied everything that you can study from a theological, sociological, anthropological, biological, and even biochemical point of view of a human phenomenon called love. So the result is that you will know everything that you can know about love. But sooner or later you will realize that you will never understand love unless you fall in love. What does that mean? That you can only attempt to understand that of which you become a part. If we fall in love, as the Latin song says, we are much more than two. No? When you belong, you understand. When you're separated, you can accumulate knowledge, and that has been the function of science. Science is divided into parts, but understanding is holistic. And that happens with poverty. I understood poverty because I was there. I lived with them, I ate with them, I slept with them, etc. And then you begin to learn that in that environment there are different values, different principles compared to those from where you are coming. and that you can learn an enormous amount of fantastic things among poverty. What I have learned from the poor is much more than I learned in the universities. But very few people have that experience, you see. They look it from the outside, instead of living it from the inside. And you learn extraordinary things. The first thing, that people who want to work in order to overcome poverty and don't know, is that in poverty there is an enormous creativity. You cannot be an idiot if you want to survive. Every minute you have to be thinking, what next? What do I know? What trick can I do here? What's this? So your creativity is constant. In addition, that is combined, with networks of cooperation, mutual aid, and all sort of extraordinary things, which you no longer find in our dominant society, which is individualistic, greedy, egoistical, etc. It's just the opposite of that you find there. And it's sometimes so shocking that you may find people much happier in poverty than what you would find, in your own environment. Which also means, that poverty is not just a question of money. It's a much more complex thing. We overestimate ourselves. And we believe, that they want to be like us. And even more, when we go there, we believe that they will overcome their problems when they look as much as possible as we look. They must be like us. And that's nonsense, see. I could give you lots of examples. I was many times, I even taught Peace Corps groups, in California and so on. And then I found them, in the field when I was there. Lovely young people, very well intentioned, And situations like this. Well, there you have a woman, making a poncho. No, but with another machine, instead of making 2 ponchos in 1 week, she could make 20 ponchos. So, no, we will bring you a much better thing, Okay, well, they bring it in, and come back a few months later, to see, a huge production of this woman. And how are you? I'm fine. How do you like the machine? Oh, very nice. And how many ponchos are you making? Well, 2 ponchos a week. But what do you mean you could make much more? Well, but I don't need to make more. But why do you make just 2? Well, and what is the machine then for? Well, I make 2, but now I have much more time to be with my friends and with my kids. In our environment, you have to do more and more and more and more. No, there, instead of making more, they have more time to enjoy themselves, to have a nice relationship with the friends, with family, etc. You see, lovely values which we have lost.
What do you think we need to change?
Oh, almost everything. We are simply dramatically stupid. We act systematically against the evidences we have. We know everything that should not be done. There's nobody that doesn't know that. Particularly the big politicians know exactly what should not be done. Yet they do it. Now, how do you change that? I don't know. I don't have the recipe. But that's the way it is. And that is the definition of stupidity. The stupid act is the act you commit against the evidences you have. Don't go through this alley because it's very dark and there's a hole in it and you may fall in. No, don't worry. And you boom, and you fall in it. That's stupidity. And that is our situation today in the world. After what happened since October 2008, elementary, you would think, well, now they're going to change. They see that the model is not working. The model is even poisonous, dramatically poisonous. And what is the result? And what happened in the last meeting of the European Union? They are more fundamentalist now than before.